Welcome to Luskan Unveiled, where we embark on a voyage back in time to the origins of Luskan, the city of sail. Luskan's early days set the stage for a saga of ambition, power, and transformation. Our story begins in the year 1231 DR, in a world vastly different from the bustling ports and pirate havens we know today. Originally a humble fishing village, this unassuming settlement sat quietly at the edge of the Sword Coast, its destiny yet unwritten. The turning point came when the ambitious Northmen, seafarers and explorers of the northern realms, recognized the village's potential, drawn by its strategic location, which commanded the northern trade routes and the vast resource-rich hinterlands. These Northmen envisioned a port that could serve as a nexus of commerce and navigation. By 1235 DR, the transformation was underway. The once quiet fishing village rapidly expanded into a bustling port. Docks sprawled along the waterfront, and ships from distant lands brought goods and gold, weaving Luskan into the fabric of maritime trade routes. However, with prosperity came notoriety. Luskan's strategic position and burgeoning wealth attracted not only merchants but also pirates, smugglers, and those freeing from the law. The city's reputation as a haven for those on the fringe of society began to form. As the years passed, the city grew in size and complexity. By 1271 DR, Luskan was known far and wide, not just as a thriving port, but as a city of opportunity and danger. Its docks were a melting pot of cultures and ambitions. Fortunes could be made, just as quickly lost. Governance in these early days was loose and fluid. The lack of strong centralized control allowed the high captains, a group of formidable pirate lords, to rise to power. By 1287 DR, these high captains had seized control of the city, marking a new chapter in Luskan's history. Under their rule, Luskan transformed from a bustling commercial hub to a den of piracy and smuggling. The high captains governed with a combination of charisma, ruthlessness, and an unspoken code that valued profit over law. Their reign ushered a golden age of piracy, with Luskan at its heart, feared and revered across the Sword Coast. Chapter 2: The Era of the High Captains. These 5 pirate lords, each commanding their own ship and crew, forged an alliance that would govern the city with an iron fist. They were not merely pirates, but astute leaders who recognized the potential of Luskan as a base of operation for the maritime exploits. Under their rule, Luskan experienced unprecedented prosperity, albeit of the notorious kind. The city became a hub for all manner of illicit activities. Smuggling, piracy, and the black market trade flourished under the tacit approval and active participation of the high captains. However, the wealth and power concentrated in Luskan attracted not only fortune seekers, but also envy and hostility. The Pirate War in 1347 DR, initiated by Waterdeep, marked one of the most significant changes to the High Captain's authority. This war was not just a battle on the seas, but a clash of ideologies, pitting the anarchic spirit of Luskan against the structured might of one of the most powerful cities on the Sword Coast. Despite their defeat, the resilience of Luskan defenders during the war only bolstered their fierce reputation. The High Captains used the city's strategic position and their maritime prowess to ensure that no single enemy could decisively defeat them. The aftermath of the war saw strengthened defenses and even a tighter grip on the city by the pirate lords. The internal dynamics within Luskan during this era were equally fraught with intrigue and betrayal. The High Captains, while allies in public, often engaged in secretive plots against one another, each vying for more power and influence. This internal politicking sometimes spilled over into the streets, turning Luskan into a chessboard for the ambitious and the ruthless. The end of the 14th century brought new challenges as the spell plague wreaked havoc across the realm. Luskan, with its dense population and chaotic energy, was particularly vulnerable. The spell plague's aftermath left the city weakened, with the High Captains struggling to maintain order as their power waned. This decline set the stage for a new power within the city, notably the Arcane Brotherhood, whose ambitions extended beyond their mere magical dominance. As the High Captain's influence receded, the wizards of the Host Tower saw an opportunity to assert their own vision for Luskan. Chapter 3: The Spell Plague. In 1385 DR, the world was shaken by the Spell Plague, a disaster of epic proportions caused by the unraveling of the Weave, the source of all magic in the world. This cataclysmic event left scars across the land and seas, distorting magic and reality alike. Luskan, with its deep ties to the arcane through the presence of the Arcane Brotherhood, was particularly vulnerable. The city, already a nexus of magic and mundane commerce, found itself on the brink of an abyss that the very fabric of magic had been woven into, its infrastructure becoming unpredictable and deadly. The spell plague ravaged the cityscape, toppling buildings, warping the docks, and opening fissures in the streets. Many of the city's wizards lost control of their powers, unleashing spells that wreaked havoc or, in some tragic cases, led to their own demise. The populace, already accustomed to certain levels of danger in their daily lives, was thrust into a new era of uncertainty and fear. Amidst this chaos, the High Captains found their authority challenged as never before. The economic backbone of the city, its pirates, smugglers, and traders, was severely impacted. Ships that once sailed with certainty found the seas themselves had become unpredictable. With previous safe waters now treacherous and strange, new creatures emerged from their depths. The years following the spell plague were marked by a struggle for survival. The fabric of society in Luskan was torn asunder, and lawlessness prevailed to an even greater extent than before. In the power vacuum that ensued, the High Captains fought desperately to maintain control, but their efforts were undermined by the lingering effects of the spell plague and the rise of new factions. It was during this period that the Arcane Brotherhood began to quietly consolidate power. With their deep knowledge of magic and its workings, they positioned themselves in an indispensable role in the effort to stabilize the city and protect its inhabitants from the ongoing magical anomalies. By the early 1400s, Luskan began to show signs of recovery. Innovative uses of magic helped to repair and rebuild much of the city's infrastructure. Although the scars of the spell plague remained visible in the twisted architecture and the warped cobblestone of its streets, the Arcane Brotherhood, now seen by many as saviors who had helped to steer Luskan through the darkest time, used this gratitude to enhance their influence. They initiated projects to harness the chaotic magic for the city's benefit, turning calamity into a source of magical innovation. However, not all were pleased with Brotherhood's gaining power. Resentment simmered among those who saw their rise as a new form of tyranny and control not by force of arms, but by the arcane, which still many feared and misunderstood. Chapter 4: The Rise of the Arcane Brotherhood. In the aftermath of the spell plague, Luskan found itself grappling with its identity and direction. The traditional power structures, long upheld by the High Captains, were weakening, paving the way for new forces to emerge. Chief among these was the Arcane Brotherhood, whose members saw an opportunity not just to influence, but directly control the city's fate. The Brotherhood, once content to operate from the shadows of their towering stronghold, the Host Tower of the Arcane, began to exert their power more openly. Under the leadership of Archmage Arklam Greeth, they initiated a series of reforms aimed at stabilizing the city through the application of controlled magic. By 1402 DR, the Brotherhood had implemented magical wards around the city, protecting it from external threats and internal riots alike. These wards not only served as a physical barrier, but also as symbols of the new order. Luskan was now a city under magical surveillance, governed by the arcane elite. However, the Brotherhood's rise to power was not unchallenged. Many of the city's traditional power brokers, including the remnants of the pirate lords and influential merchant families, viewed the wizard's control with suspicion and fear. Secret alliances formed, and plots were hatched in the dark corners of Luskan's taverns and back alleys, aiming to undermine the Brotherhood's authority. Tensions reached a boiling point in 1409 DR, when a coalition of disaffected pirates and merchants attempted a coup. The streets of Luskan erupted into violence, with magical duels and sword fights breaking out across the key districts. The Brotherhood, with their superior magical prowess, quickly quelled the uprising, solidifying their grip on the city. In the years that followed, the Arcane Brotherhood sought to transform Luskan into a center of magical study and discovery, attracting scholars and mages from across Faerun. The host tower of the Arcane flourished, and became a beacon of arcane knowledge and power. Despite their successes, the Brotherhood's rule was marked by an undercurrent of fear and resentment among the populace. The city thrived outwardly, but many of its citizens felt alienated by the new order, which favored magical aptitude over all else. Modern Luskan. The magocracy rule has transformed Luskan into a center for magical research and education, attracting not only mages but also adventurers, scholars, and those curious about the arcane arts. However, the transition into modern era has not been smooth. The heavy-handed governance by the Brotherhood began to wane as external political pressure and internal dissent grew. By 1450 DR, calls for democratic governance started to resonate through the streets, spurred by a new generation of Luskans tired of arcane rule. The emergence of technological advancement and the widespread use of magic in daily life brought new opportunities and challenges. Trade flourished once again, with the city's strategic location making it a vital commerce hub on the Sword Coast. Yet, with prosperity came new threats, both from the old rivals and new enemies seeking to exploit Luskan's wealth. In response to these challenges, the city saw the reformation of its governance. The old system of high captains was reimagined, now incorporating leaders from various sectors of the city life, including representatives from the burgeoning merchant class, the traditional pirate families, and yes, the Arcane Brotherhood, whose influence remained, but now balanced by others. The city also invested in significant urban development projects. The docks were modernized to accommodate airships as other magical vehicles, while the infrastructure devastated by past calamities was rebuilt using both traditional craftsmanship and magical construction techniques. Cultural evolution accompanied economic changes. Luskan, known for its harsh justice and lawless past, began to cultivate a more refined set of cultural institutions. Museums, theaters, academies sprang up, celebrating not only the city's turbulent history, but also its contributions to the arts and sciences. Yet the shadows of the past never fully disappear. The undercurrents of old conflicts simmer beneath the surface, with pirate factions and arcane manipulators continuously vying for power and influence. The struggle for control over Luskan's future remains a lively chess game played in taverns, council chambers, and shadowy alleyways. Modern Luskan stands as a city at a crossroads of history and modernity, its identity forged in the fires of conflict and innovation. It is a testament to the resilience of its people and their ability to adapt and thrive in the face of relentless challenges. as the sails of its ships continue to catch the winds of change. Luskan remains a city to watch, ever evolving, ever enduring. Stay curious, stay adventurous, and perhaps one day visit the docks of Luskan to experience its magic for yourself.